isn't for you to fill out.
Still waiting on 4 more people to vote.
What is that noise?
Okay, I'm just going to share the results right now. We have a 3, 6, 110 even, but mostly people hovering around the middle areas of 6s and 7s.
The 10 was me.
Interesting. Okay, let's get started.
All right, let's go.
Hi, welcome to High School Prep. This is a preparatory course highlighting everything you need to know about your high school experience. I'm Franco. I'm a rising junior at BCC, and I'm a part of the Lazarus Leadership Fellows Program. Basically, a program mainly consisting of sophomores and juniors who basically band together in groups or work independently to create a public service that works for 200 hours worth of public service.
Yeah, I'm Quinn. I'm another one of the Lazarus Fellows. I'm also a rising junior in BCC. I run track, and I play trombone in the band. And I'm a god at 2K. That's it.
I'm Thomas. I'm also a rising junior at BCC, and yeah, that's what it is.
Hi guys, I'm Micah. I'm a rising junior at BCC also, and what I like to do for fun is I like to play tennis, play other sports, read occasionally, and play the occasional Madden Mobile.
Bye.
In this 1 hour course, we will cover organization, getting involved, time management, getting help, and tips for online learning. All of these situated towards preparing you for the high school environment. Please stay tuned until the end of the presentation because you will be quizzed on the content of the slideshow on a Kahoot. The winner of the Kahoot will receive $25.
Organization leads to success, our first subtopic. So organization is crucial in high school because it minimizes the stress you may have, decreases the odds of you turning in your work late or losing your work, and improves your grades even. Tips to organize yourself during online school. So there's 4 main tips. They include using an agenda, setting out a designated workplace, which I'll talk about later, waking up early enough, unfortunately, and taking advantage of the resources you are given through MCPS. Even though most of you guys had agenda books in middle school, I know they weren't actually widely used, and people may have just edged around them and been able to do their work but not actually use them. Meanwhile, in high school, it is crucial. It is very important that you guys use your agenda books, stay organized, and complete all your work. And because of online learning, I'm not sure you guys are going to get school-provided agenda books, but there are definitely other options to be able to obtain some sort of agenda book, which I highly recommend it. The 4 functions of agenda books. I believe that agenda books can be broken down into 4 main functions, and they include writing down your homework and work due the next day, writing down work and homework due in multiple days, writing down the dates of tests, and writing down reminders for the test dates. By this, I mean, let's say you had a test on Friday of a particular week. That Monday, I might even write test this week on Friday. And the day before Friday, for sure, I'd write test tomorrow, all in my agenda book. By writing down these reminders for both test dates and work due in multiple dates, you can space out your studying. By this, I mean, again, if you had the test on Friday and you have 5 days until that day, by writing down these reminders, you are able to plan it out so that you study maybe 30 minutes each day. This is something known as incremental studying, which is, again, planning out your study habits for the week.
Yeah, and this is really important for like any AP exams or like end of year exams that you might have in high school, because if you you wait until like the week before the exam and then just try and get as much studying in as possible, you're going to get burnt out really quick. And it makes it a lot easier if you start studying like a month before. You just find a lot more success that way.
Also, it's a lot more efficient than something known as cramming, which is when you study the night before for like, some kids can study for like 4 hours the night before. This is actually less efficient because you remember less things than if you studied throughout the week. And you'll do worse on your tests if you do cramming versus incrementally. You'll do worse on your tests if you do. Setting out your designated workplace. This is especially important for online learning. But first, what is a designated workplace? It's an area in your house, home, apartment in which you do all of your work. It could be your desk, dining room table, any area in your house that you'll set aside. I like to call it your work sanctuary. It's an area with minimal distractions and an area with all the supplies and resources you may need to complete whatever work you've been assigned for that particular week. Why is one of these needed? It's needed to increase your productivity, give you a familiar setting that signifies that it's work time to your brain, and it'll give structure and routine to your day. This is my designated workplace. I'm not saying this is a perfect example, but it's pretty good. It includes, if you can see my mouse, it includes my weekly planner over here, my materials over here, and my computer's normally here, but it was absent for this photo. And then this metal structure over here is an area where I space out my papers. One thing that you should definitely not see here is my phone. It's nowhere to be found. It's actually 2 rooms over because phones create distractions. And we'll go into that later, but they suck up your time. And as long as you have one near you, you will not be concentrated and you will not be able to complete your work as efficiently as possible. So before I move on, please think about what will you use as your designated workplace? Do you have all the components mentioned in the last slide? And if you don't have all the components, which ones do you still need and how are you going to obtain them? So let's take 15 seconds to just think about that. And we have waking up early enough. It's important that you don't sleep in too late during online learning. And waking up between 8 or 9 or even earlier will allow you to stay on top of your work. This is because teachers will assign work early in the morning. So by waking up early, you were able to get a jump on things. You have more time to divide between your classes and more time to schedule around. Organizing using Google Drive folders. You can divide your online work into 7 virtual folders using Google Drive. Well, I'm not going to go to the demo today because it's pretty easy to create these folders. And all you have to do is press new folder in your Google Drive. Do we have any questions on the organization segment of this presentation? Okay, let's move on.
All right, so we're going to talk about how you can get involved in high school, in like your school community and everything that means. How your ability to get involved is impacted by online learning. So many of the extracurriculars that we're going to be talking about here will not be available for the first semester. But this information is really useful and is necessary about when we get back into like school in person, because high school is not solely about academics.
I know that some extracurriculars are actually running online this summer and even will continue this fall. And I'd suggest if there's any ones that interest you, I would contact their club owner, president, and email them about the availability of these clubs. And if you're interested, I have a list of all the BCC clubs and club presidents that I can email to you guys individually after the session if you're interested.
So sports teams. So there are countless opportunities to play sports in high school. There are sports in the fall, winter, and spring for girls and boys. And in MCPS, to try out for a sport, you must have a physical completed by a doctor and have a 2.0 GPA, as well as for incoming freshmen like you guys. You will be trying out for JV teams because you weren't skilled enough to make the varsity teams. But if you are, you will be on varsity. Yeah.
And there are no exceptions to this 2.0 GPA rule and the physical
Yeah.
complete. You will
None at all.
absolutely not be allowed to try out without them.
In addition to varsity and JV sports, there are also other athletic opportunities that don't require a tryout. There's club sports that you can play, like frisbee and spikeball that are at BCC, or hockey and crew. And there's intramural sports. These depend on a school-to-school basis, but a lot of MCBS schools have some intramural sports teams that they have. And joining a sports team is a really good way to make friends and to ease your transition in, even though we can't do it this year for your first semester, but maybe in the spring you guys should look at sports to play. The SGA. The SGA is a great place to show leadership qualities that you have at the school. You can run for your school-wide SGA or your class SGA. And school-wide SGA members are usually like upperclassmen who are more experienced with the school, but each class usually has their own SGA. And the SGA is the voice of the students. So they give input at PTA and teachers and county-wide meetings that on behalf of students. So they give their input, as well as these positions are elected. So there is no guarantee that anybody will attain them. So it doesn't matter like your standing. It's just voted on by your fellow peers. And the elections occur at the end of the year for most, all the other grades. But as a freshman, it will be at the very start of the year. Honor societies. So honor societies are something that you can join starting in 10th grade. It's another great way to get involved. Honor societies are available for students who have done really well in one particular subject, or like math, English, or like science. And joining the honor society makes it so that you can help other students who need like tutoring help. And as a freshman or at any grade, you can go to these honor societies if you need help in a subject, or you can join them and be one of the tutors helping the students get better at the subject. Theater is perfect for all actors, or even those who want to just try out acting. Most high schools have around 3 productions per year. And at BCC, their productions are listed there, as you can see. But to get involved into theater at your school, one would have to audition for the theater program. While there's no like specific information about auditions because you can't really do theater because of Rona, it is widely advertised by once school begins. It's widely advertised.
Let's actually take a moment to look at these cool pictures at BCC. Well, I know that not all of you are going to BCC. It does get a sense to how almost professional the productions look in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm trying to X out. Okay. So I think these are from Hairspray. So I like looking at
These are from
pictures.
performances from like 2018 and things like that. But they'll still show.
This is the pit orchestra. It's something else you can join at BCC or any school in particular. Stage crew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go back to the presentation.
So, as seen in some of those pictures, also, you saw stage crew, which is an extension of theater that one can sign up for. There's no auditions or tryouts for stage crew. And stage crew helps create and move the set pieces during the performance. And so, if you want to do like things about like building or like painting or things like that, you can do stage crew because they like paint and create the set pieces that are on stage and they help move them around. And they also help at musical performances that happen at the school.
Yeah, and speaking of the music side of it, there's also other musical extracurriculars that are probably offered at your school. Like there's probably some sort of drum line, maybe a marching band, probably pit orchestra for the theater program, like that sort of stuff. So depending on your school, there's definitely some cool opportunities in the music department.
Mhm. Is there any questions for anybody?
You can put them in the chat if you want. You don't need to say anything.
Yeah, you don't need to say anything if you don't want to.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about time management. So the first strategy that you can use that's helpful is setting a time limit for each task. This will like help eliminate distractions and keep you focused on getting the work done. And it's just a random time limit, so if you go over it, it's not really the end of the world. You just want to make sure you understand everything. And it helps you really get motivated to get it done. So like if I had a bunch of math homework, I would give myself from 8 to 10 to do it, and I would just bang it out. So that's just one strategy that I find useful. So planning your day, that's another thing you can do. So as you're assigned homework throughout the day, you can think about when you're going to have the opportunity to do it. And this is going to help you find time that you didn't know you had and be able to utilize it by being productive. Yeah, so for example, if I had like a small history assignment due the next day, I would plan to do it right after the Zoom ends because this is time when the material is still fresh in my mind, and I can use time that I would usually just spend like checking my phone or like getting a snack or something, which is just like not really productive. So this is probably the most important thing in the whole slideshow, I'd say, for online learning is eliminating distractions, because every high school or middle schooler has trouble resisting the temptation of checking their phone or checking their computer or just doing anything but their homework really while they're doing work. So the easiest solution for your phone is just leave it in another room, like Micah said, because you can't access it easily if it's like downstairs, like it's too far. So that's one thing you can do for your phone, but you just want to make sure that you try to stay away from checking other tabs or stuff like that while you're doing work. Yes, this is more about eliminating distractions. So if you find yourself becoming distracted, you gotta do your best to eliminate it. So this can be as simple as putting in headphones to block out like noise, or telling your siblings to leave your room if they come barging in. And then in particular, putting in headphones with music can be a great way to focus if it's not like too distracting for you. It's something that a lot of students, including me, do all the time.
I think doing that is a great way to focus, and it doesn't need to be music. For example, sometimes use a white noise machine. That'll actually help me concentrate and learn and do my work better.
So before we move on, just think about this for a second. So what is one distraction that affected you during this past fourth quarter where we were online, and what can you do so it doesn't happen this coming year? And just try not to answer your phone, because that's kind of just the easy way out.
Feel free to put your answer in the chat.
Okay. I can move on. Yeah.
All right.
So, oh wait, someone touched that. Use a laptop instead of computer, which has games. Yeah, that works. That's one thing that I used to do as I used to play on like the other computer that I game on. So that can definitely be really distracting. Okay, so single tasking. So this is basically just doing one thing at a time, and it helps because it's not you're not trying to do two things at once, what can be really distracting and inefficient. This can help you focus fully on one topic or assignment, and starting one assignment and then pushing off to the side and starting another one is waste a lot of time because each time you pick up a new assignment, you have to like get back into the zone pretty much. That's something I found is like if I'm like, for example, writing an essay and I get 15 minutes into it, I get past the intro, like it starts getting a lot easier to write sentences. So if I then, once I get there, put it off to the side and start math and I have to come back to it, you're just wasting a lot of time getting back in like the groove of it. And in addition to this, multitasking is often cited as one of the main reasons for forgetting things because it's actually impossible for your brain to focus on two things at once. So it just makes it a lot harder on yourself for no reason when you can just do, instead of that, you can just do one thing at a time. So yeah, taking breaks. Taking breaks can be really good for you if you just don't take too many or too long of breaks. And you can use these breaks as an incentive to finish work. So for example, you can think, after I finish this assignment, I'll give myself a 15-minute break, and this will give you motivation to finish the assignment faster maybe. And it'll also give you a breather so you don't get burned out and you can come back ready to work and be productive again. And then one more important thing with breaks is that you want to make sure that it's proportional to the amount of time that you are spending working. So like you don't want to like work for 15 minutes and then take like a 2-hour break. That's kind of self-explanatory, but that's something that's like that I've done a couple times, I think. So you just want to make sure your breaks aren't too long so you can get all your work done in a decent amount of time.
Adding on to that, if you choose to use these breaks as incentive, if you take longer breaks, this actually takes away from the incentive part of the breaks because the value of those breaks will go down. And they'll become more of an incentive if you take fewer of them. Or they'll become more valued if you take fewer of them.
So balancing extracurriculars, this is another thing that doesn't really apply too much to the first semester, but this will be helpful for later in your high school career, I guess. So I can talk about what happened to me. So I joined cross country my freshman year, and it doesn't take up that much time really, but it took up enough time that I would need to be productive doing my work when I got home. And that's something like I wasn't used to doing that, or like I've never done that before. So I ended up staying up like pretty late some nights to get work done because I was just procrastinating all my work and like just checking my phone during it, like taking too many breaks, just pushing it all off until late at night. And then I would be really tired then, so my work would just be bad. So it was just a bad situation. And then I started like trying to do some of the stuff I talked about before, and also just trying to be more motivated to get my work done. And I started getting more sleep, and then in turn improved my performance in sports and in school. So it just turned out from all bad to all good. And then one other thing about balancing extracurriculars is that if you find yourself like falling behind in school due to an extracurricular taking up too much of your time, then it might be necessary to like take a break from the extracurricular because in reality, like school is more important than whatever extracurricular you're doing, most likely.
Yeah, for almost in every situation, it's more important that you get your schoolwork done and that instead of like focusing incredibly on your extracurricular. And if you don't do well enough in school, you can't even participate in the extracurricular. So it's more important to get your schoolwork done.
Not to discourage you guys from trying out for school sports, but school sports do involve practices almost daily, or they are daily. And an alternative to that would be, as you mentioned before, doing a club activity or sport. For example, I've been both in the Ultimate Frisbee Club and the Spike Ball Club, and they both were really fun alternatives to a school sport. And they also gave me really valuable experiences, and I got an opportunity to meet a lot of new friends and people. And speaking of extracurriculars, Franco just put in the chat the link to the BCC extracurriculars. So if everyone would click on that, give you guys a moment to click on that. That'd be great.
And your school probably has something just like this if you don't go to BCC. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at it.
And some of the clubs are actually will be in both schools.
Yeah.
In all schools. So this gives you an idea of what clubs will look like at any school. And take 2 minutes to figure out a club that you would be interested in joining. Even if you're not going to BCC, just try and figure out what your interest would be in a high school club. Okay, hopefully everyone found a club of interest. And let's do an exercise where I'll go around. And I'm going to ask each of you which club was of interest to you, just so we get a sense of the general interest of this group. And you don't need to say it, but you can put it in the chat if you'd like. First, we have Noah. Noah, what club is of interest to you? Thanks, Noah. Spike ball, great club.
Yeah,
I'll be in that
definitely
club too. Next we have human. Human, feel free to put your answer in the chat if you'd like. Robotics. That's a very
Nice.
cool club. Next we have Clint. Russian club. That's actually interesting. Learning about the culture. Very good. Aziz.
I said sign language.
Thanks, Anais. Aziz is not too sure yet. That's fine. You have the link, so you'll be able to. You can say 2 or 3. Aziz. Oh, you going to Wheaton? Perfect. What are some clubs at Wheaton? Biomed. Wow. I'm not sure if BCC has a biomed club. But yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And you just want to make sure that, because some of these clubs are actually going to be held online, so you should look and see if any of these clubs are being held first semester, so you can just get involved right away.
Yeah. Elizabeth, what club were you looking at? Not really sure yet. That's fine. Oh, nothing about clubs, but for BCC at least, at the beginning of school, they have a club fair in which all the clubs go out with different booths in the bus loop, and you go around exploring the different clubs and signing up for clubs. And that's a really good way to get to know the different options available. Thomas, what about you? Rock climbing club. My brother's actually in that club, or he might be forming his own rock climbing club. Anais shared. Jathiah. Pre-med. Wow. Interested in becoming a nurse or doctor. Willie.
Rock climbing again.
Oh, rock climbing again. Do you guys know, if you guys don't know each other, maybe that you guys could connect after this. Jonah. Oh, theater. Cool.
Very nice.
Okay, let's move on. Thanks everyone for sharing. Do we have any questions? Online learning.
Online learning. MyCPS portal. This is where you can check your grades and figure out what score you need on a certain test to get your desired grade. Teachers can also post alerts and reminders for what work is due on a certain day of the week. This is also an easy way to get in contact with your teachers by emailing them through the portal. Now, accessing MCPS portal from your computer, you can't really like input your own grades to see what you need for like a certain test. But if you download like the MCPS helper app on your phone, that's available on there too. And it updates, I think after 24 hours, whenever grades are in.
Yeah, definitely get one of those apps. They
Very
can
helpful.
clutch. Yeah.
For private
I
schools,
Plus.
yeah.
My MCPS Classroom. This is a dashboard to show what work is due during the week and what time. Tests are taken through this platform. Teachers will provide updates for work through here, and discussions for class also can work through my MCPS. Teachers can also send, I guess you could call them emails to students through my MCPS Classroom. And sometimes the principal will send an email that comes to you via like your school email and the classroom database. And this is kind of like, it's very similar to Google Classroom.
And I think every teacher in MCPS this year has to use my MCPS Classroom because they're trying to have everyone on one platform this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year was kind of hectic because kids had to switch between Google Classroom and MCPS Classroom for different periods for teachers. Zoom. This is used for most online learning. You record almost all meetings. If you have to miss one, office hours are also used using Zoom if there are any questions you may have. So basically Zoom is like what we're on right now, and teachers are going to record every meeting they can. Most teachers, when they start the Zoom, they're gonna remind you that they're gonna record the meeting, and sometimes you have to like click a little tab to say yes, I'm like allowing the teacher to record the Zoom, because a lot of students will be busy while they're enrolling in online school. So if they miss anything, the teachers can like send them a recording or just send it to the rest of the class so you can catch up. During Zooms, you should keep your camera on. This will keep you focused and force you to stay in front of your computer. Be careful. Some Zoom hosts might be using the attendee attendance tracker. Mute your mic if you have a lot of background noises. These noises can be distracting. I very much so agree with the last one, because when a teacher is talking or when a student's saying something and there's background noise, it's much harder to pay attention to what they're saying. Keeping your camera on like raises the likelihood of you participating in the actual lesson. If you have your camera off, you're less likely to turn on your mic and say something. Through the Zoom platform, if the teacher's having like a discussion or if they're asking a question, they might ask you to just unmute your mic and start talking, or there's like a little option where you can hit like the reaction button at the bottom and kind of like virtually raise your hand so the teacher can call on you. And if they ask like true or false questions or something, there's also a thumbs up and thumbs down in the reactions tab.
Yeah, and about the attendee attention tracker, that's one thing that one of my teachers was using during the fourth quarter, and it like somehow tracks the user to see if it like if you're like tabbed out for more than like 2 minutes or something. But there's like a bunch of features, so a lot of teachers don't use it, but I just make sure that you're not getting like caught tabbing out or anything like that. So just want to stay tabbed into the Zoom just to be safe.
Teachers are trying to do everything they can to keep students to pay attention during the class as if it was like in person, like you were in school. So.
Yeah.
Getting help. If you're having trouble at any time during online learning or in-person school, there are a few contacts you may reach out to. This includes teachers, administrators, counselors, and security. If you're having trouble with a certain assignment in a class, you can most likely respond to the teacher or reach out to them through the MCPS Classroom. Or if it's something more generalized, you can email the teachers, administrators, counselors, and security guards. Your school website will likely have a contact list that you can use to reach out to certain people.
Yeah, and then, wait, can you go back real quick? Yeah, so like one important thing on this is the counselors, because they're basically people at the school that are just solely there to help you out. So they can help with anything from like switching your schedule or any problems you're like having with like, for example, like bullying or something at school like that. They can help with anything pretty much. And you'll probably get assigned to them at the beginning of the year. So you want to make sure you get to know them pretty well, because they'll be writing you a college recommendation most likely. So having a good relationship with them is really important, and they can just be really helpful for pretty much anything.
Yeah, and communication through email is most of the time prominent. like if you email a teacher or a counselor, they will likely get back to you in a day or two. I think they have to within a day. But administrators might take a little longer because they are a little bit more busy, especially with like handling Zoom and the online learning. They're still basically deciding what they want to do for the rest of the year, so they might be harder to reach out to, but they'll still respond. What's one thing that was proven right or wrong by this presentation, whether you heard it from like a teacher or a student or a teammate, something like that, or like a parent about high school, like the high school experience? I heard a lot of things when I was going to high school, and most of them were wrong. Anais, what's one thing that you heard that we either proved right or wrong?
Can you repeat the question again? Because it's kind of like glitching for me.
Yeah. What's one thing that you heard about the high school experience that we either proved right or wrong in this presentation?
I heard that like getting into, because for me, I used to go to a private school and our grades are really small. So, like just knowing, because everyone knew each other really well, but I guess in high school there's so many more people. You guys proved that like getting to get into more extracurriculars and like more clubs and stuff. I heard that was a good thing to do.
Yeah, in high school, it's like when you start to make new friends and make new connections. Like in middle school and in elementary, you would know like everyone in your grade and most likely a lot more people in addition to that. But in high school, there's a lot more people. So that's going to teach you how to talk to strangers and communicate better. Also, if you have something that you heard about high school that we didn't mention in the program or in the presentation, please speak up and ask questions if you have them. Wiley, how about you?
Typed in chat the phone. He was proven right about the phone as a distraction. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And being organized is good. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely more important in high school, I think, because there's just a lot more stuff going on in each class.
Mm-hmm. What about Noah?
Well, yeah, also the phone was like a huge distraction in middle school. So yeah, I'd definitely not be surprised if it's a big distraction in high school.
Yeah, especially during online learning, because while you're on Zooms, especially if you have like a friend in that class, you're probably going to be texting them, or some people even try and FaceTime each other while on like classroom Zoom, which I do not recommend.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of staying organized, a lot of people in middle school use the one binder system to handle all their work. In high school, that's actually it's one of the main systems. It's not really that widely used. A lot more people use 7 folders, and I personally think it's a lot more efficient and better way to organize your work because you only have to take out one per class, and it just feels lighter in general.
Yeah.
I have a question.
What did you say?
I have a question.
Ask
Is it better to use like a paper agenda, like an actual physical one, or is it better to do it on your phone? Because I know they have like Google Calendar and things like that, and a task list. Is it better to use that or like a physical one?
Yeah, great question.
I think it's just preference.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it comes down to your preference.
Yeah, I use my phone I use the like electronic version to keep track of my work, but like I know a ton of people that use paper.
Yeah, it's up to you. I personally use the paper one because I like seeing like my schedule fill out, and I can literally see open spaces that I have time or closed spaces that I don't have time.
Going back to what Micah said about the folders and the binders, I personally use like a hybrid of that. I use folders for all my classes except for math, because math, they like try and give you like packets and a lot of stuff that you have to use and keep throughout the year. So I use like a mini 1-inch binder for math and then a few folders for my other classes. How about Clint? What's one thing that you heard about the high school experience? Okay. Let's try Aziz or Azaz. Sorry if I butchered that.
Yeah, using your agenda for sure. I heard that you need to stay focused, but not. Yep. Those are both good.
Yeah, that's actually true. I used to never use my agenda book, and I actually started like halfway through freshman year. I would always like try and remember my homework and projects that I would do, but um, this is like one of the things that I thought someone would bring up when I asked this question. The workload is different between middle school and high school. So like if you are a person that doesn't really use your agenda book, it might be something you want to look into because I used to be that type of person, but keeping track of all like the due dates, because some teachers like to assign due dates that are like way ahead, like a week or two in advance. Some teachers just assign homework that's due the next day. So keeping track of all of that is very useful. What about you, Thomas?
I think
Oh,
we,
You already said it in the chat. Thomas already said it in
yeah,
the chat.
I think we
Okay,
should
let's
go to the
move on.
Kahoot. Yeah, let's go to the Kahoot.
For the $25 reward, Kahoot. Wait, I gotta examine
Let's
this
go.
first. Oh wait, any final questions? We went over that.